Listen up with Jim Potts. Listen up, business owners, CFOs, human resource managers, and all managers and supervisors. Jim Potts is answering and addressing your questions and concerns, helping you stay out of court. Furthermore, please be advised that Jim's answers are not legal advice and are only intended as a guide based on his years of experience. The phone lines are open. 1-855-4-J-POTS. That's 1-855-457-6887. You can also email us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. Ready to listen up? Here is Jim Potts.
Hey, Jim Potts back on the air. Well, hopefully everybody has remained safe throughout the holidays. Today I want to talk to you about an email that I got. And the email that I received from an individual has to do with the fact that she tried to be honest with her boss and express her opinion about things. And she's asking me, how open and honest should she be? Now look, I'm going to give you 5 things you should never tell your boss. All right? 5 things you should never tell your boss. And I'm doing this in response to this email because employees sometimes do want to be honest with their boss. So this is going out to all the employees out there. And before I start this, I will say managers, supervisors, bosses that are out there, whether male or female, don't be so thin-skinned. You know, your employees want to come to you. They want to be honest about things. And, you know, I think you should not be so thin-skinned. And I know that, you know, there's going to be ones out there that are still going to be thin-skinned. I get that. You know, but I think in an ideal world, a person should always have an open and honest relationship with their boss. And I use that word boss very loosely. You know, their employer, their supervisor, their manager. You know, I like that better. I've had people call me boss over the years that I've been in business. And, you know, I kind of correct them and say, don't call me boss, just call me Jim, because I'm much more informal than that. But, you know, managers are human. And, you know, we're all human in the real world here. And people can sometimes not like what's being said. Now, in today's day and age of sharing everything publicly, which you always are going to see out there now on the internet, Facebook, etc., you have people that say things, and you got to understand, employees, that when you put something on Facebook and you're on Facebook with your boss, whoever the case may be, somebody's going to see that, or at a minimum, they're going to relate it back and tell their employer, their manager, the supervisor, and they're not always going to like some of the things that are being said. Now, I will admit that there have been some cases out there where basically the court is telling, you know, managers, supervisors, employers, don't take adverse action against anybody for something they post on Facebook, because they're off the clock and they have, you know, the right to express an opinion. So if they're just expressing an opinion out there, you know, about their manager or supervisor, you got to learn not to be so thin-skinned. But I came up with this thing about 5 things never to tell your boss. So this is directed to the employees out there, because these are the things that might get you in trouble. The first one is, don't tell your boss that they stink as a boss. All right, that is just not going to go over well. You know, sometimes when a boss does something, you know, especially annoying, it's very tempting to tell the boss off. I get it. Yeah, but look, you got to remember that they're still the boss. Now, there's some people out there that say, I don't care, you know, I'm not going to be, you know, having somebody, you know, get up in my face or do this or do that. Listen, I'm not talking about that. When you tell a boss that you stink as a boss, whether you do it on Facebook or in person, that's just never going to go over big. And especially if you do it in front of other employees, is what you have to be careful about, is that is still going to be a form of insubordination, especially if you're in the work environment saying it. And there's really 2 different types of insubordination. There's just regular insubordination, where you, in fact, don't do something that you're told to do. And then there could be this gross insubordination, when you yell at them, use inappropriate language towards them, and this is all in front of somebody else out in the open area. And what you do behind closed doors, well, you do what you do behind closed doors. But if you put it out there, you know, you got to watch out for the gross insubordination thing. And again, I'll stress, managers and supervisors are still human beings, and, you know, they're not going to like being told off by one of their employees. And I don't use the word subordinate anymore, because I don't want employers and employees, managers and supervisors using the word, you know, subordinate. You know, team member, staff member. Those are all better politically sounding words anyway. All right. Now, some employees can't, some employees find themselves, they get into these screaming matches, and then it never ends. You can't just tell your boss he's a horrible boss, telling them what they should be doing. It never happens that the boss is going to turn around and listen and say, you're right, and I'll start changing it and doing it the way that you want me to do it, even if they know that might be a better way. So be a little bit more political, be a little bit more, diplomatic when you approach them with that. All right. Now, if your boss does stink, well, you aren't stuck. First of all, you can start looking for a new job. So remember, you think your boss stinks? Why aren't you out there looking for another job? I know it's tough out there, but if you really don't like your boss and you think he really does stink or she really does stink, just start looking for a new job. You're not required to stay with that job and that bad boss forever. So there's options available to you. And if the benefits outweigh the downside of working for that person, fine. But recognize you're making a choice. You can also model good behavior. If the boss asks you for suggestions on how that person can improve, it's okay to bring up one small thing. It should be really great if we could get the schedule in advance so we could plan our weeks. Not, hey, you're late with the schedule. You're always giving the best shifts to your favorites, and you throw me under the bus when I follow company policy. And by the way, your breath stinks. That's really, really not the way to go. All right? So look, be diplomatic in your approach. Number 2 that I come up with here is telling your boss, hey, guess what? I'm looking for a new job. Why do you think you need to give that information out to your boss to tell him or her that, in fact, you're looking for a new job? In an ideal land, this is precisely what you should tell your boss, but that's not the problem. And I would agree that it allows for a smooth transition. You're trying to do the right thing, etc. But it doesn't always work out that way. And, some bosses, they may say they like that, but on the other side of the coin is you may have an issue with speaking up in that note. That's a recipe for disaster, simply meaning that once you turn around and tell them that you're looking for another job, then the problem is going to be that's a slap in the face. Why is this person looking for another job? I thought I was the best boss ever. And now they get totally offended for that reason. Your boss may give you now rotten assignments, treat you poorly, or even look at you and tell you you're fired. Now, you got to understand, you're fired. But if you turn around and give a 2-week notice and your boss lets you go before that 2 weeks, that technically becomes a discharge unless they pay you through the effective date of the resignation. So if they pay you through the effective date of your resignation, tell you can leave now, that's not illegal, and it remains a voluntary quit. Now, it can make a difference when you're collecting unemployment insurance benefits, but I thought I would throw that your way. The other one is you want to go to the boss and tell them, my coworkers are slacking off. Now, look, we all know it's frustrating when your coworkers are not doing their jobs. It's even more frustrating when their bad behavior falls on your shoulders. And it makes sense that you might want to tell your boss that. But you know what? You don't want to go down that path. It creates a lot of issues, morale issues, and the boss is probably going to go back and tell people, well, bloop-de-blah said that you're not doing your job. You don't want to go down that road. Now, the other thing is that this may not be news to your boss. Bosses sometimes don't seem like they're paying attention to things. Don't go by that. They sometimes are very aware. And you don't want to have this attitude that you're a stool pigeon, because I'm going to tell you what your boss is going to think. If you're going to squeal on your coworkers, you're going to squeal on him or her as well. So kind of keep that in mind. The 4th thing never to tell your boss is I'm bored. Now listen, whatever happened, think back for a moment. You're sitting around at home with your mom and your dad, and they say, why don't you go do something? Well, Mom and Dad, I'm bored. What did they do? I don't know about your parents. I'll tell you what mine did. You're bored? They can hand you a bucket of water and a scrub brush and tell you get busy around the house and help clean things up. Now, that's the same thing that's in the work environment. In the work environment, you use the word bored, and they're going to tell you, you know what? We're going to find some more work for you to do. Now, look, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. Some people can turn around and say, look, be a little bit diplomatic in how you present that. Don't say I'm bored. It's what you do is go to your boss and say, you know what? I've just finished up this particular project. Hey, do you have something else that I can help somebody else with, or you have something else I can do? Do it that way. And I'm sure that they would appreciate that as well. Number 5, don't be talking about your personal business. Don't tell your boss, as an example, hey, I got trash Friday night. All right. And I'm on YouTube and this and that, or I'm on Facebook with all these pictures. The last thing you want is for your boss to have a poor impression of you. When you talk about stupid things you did, they're likely to think you're stupid. So don't turn around, okay, and give up personal information, okay, like that. You always want your boss to perceive you as somebody that's professional. If you act professional, on and off duty, they will look at you as a professional. You start giving them information, that you got trash Friday night, or you telling about all the guys that you slept with or all the women you slept with. Let me just tell you something. That does not create a good impression. So hold back on some of that personal information and put it on a need-to-know basis only. All right, with that last comment, it's time to close out this segment. But let me remind you that you can also hear us on Facebook and Listen Up and subscribe to us on iTunes. Just search for Listen Up with Jim Potts. And as a reminder, we take calls every third Friday. We can be reached at 855-4J-POTS or 855-457-6887 between the hours of 9:45 a.m. and 10:45. Or email us at Listen up at JamesWilliamPottsLLC.com. Okay, I'm Jim Potts, and I will continue to fight the fight. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time.
Thank you for being a part of Listen Up with Jim Potts. We take your calls every third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for your questions and concerns. Call us at 1-855-4J-POTS. That's 1-855-4J-POTS. Again, that's every third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time at 1-855-4J-POTS. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on iTunes, and link up with us on LinkedIn. You can also email us at listenup@JamesWilliamPottsLLC.com. Until next time, make it a great week.